Why do we buy things we don't need? Well, if small businesses knew that, they might be able to take advantage of it. Today, we're going to walk you through some of the reasons why people are constantly buying things they don't need. And we're going to give you some actionable steps, if you stick around to the end, on how to take advantage of that for your small business.
Welcome to Blunt Force Business. I'm Brian LaFauci.
And I'm Patrick Marino.
And today we are talking to you about that Amazon package that arrives and you are like, when did I order this? And why is it here? And you open it up and you're like, oh yeah, but do I really need that? We're going to take your company and turn that into this.
We're going to try and understand why people do that and then try and figure out how you can take advantage of it.
That's the order we're going to do.
Yeah.
That's it. So let's jump into the facts. All right. Blunt Force fact number 1 is love at first sight is real.
Yeah, unlike maybe you have this experience in love, but in buying, people really enjoy impulse purchase. It makes them happy. So that's one of the reasons why people had a bunch of stuff they don't need, is because buying stuff, just grabbing it, is something that really improves their mood.
That's it. Blunt Force fact number 2 we're going to talk about today are looks are everything.
Yeah, and unfortunately for those of us who are still single and in the dating world, looks are really important, and they are really important in terms of products and services too. So I think that there's a huge percentage of people, like over 90% of shoppers, make purchases just based on the visuals.
And Blunt Force fact number 3 for today is we want what she's having.
We see, back in the day, it would have been like, be like Mike. I mean, these are real things. You want to buy things that are either being used by people that you respect, or you want to buy things your friends and family have, like the Joneses, keeping up with the Joneses. I mean, these are all real psychological needs, and they're one of the reasons why people buy things they don't need, is because other people have them and they have a fear of missing out.
Absolutely. And so we want to now take this approach and look at your products or service, and how can you approach your products or service to create this kind of feeling, to be the thing that people maybe click on before they really have had time for that dopamine reaction to kind of come down. So we got to make it enticing and create that sense of need this right now. And then maybe when it comes in, maybe we love it, maybe we don't. I think we both were talking before this about we all can relate to the fact that there are some things that we've bought that on impulse that we love. We're happy we did it. It worked out great. I can think of a couple of those. And then there's others that we buy on impulse that came in and we maybe are like, haven't quite used that yet. But maybe I will someday.
I have a whole corner of my room dedicated to things I bought that I didn't need, that I figured out I didn't need.
After.
It was like, I'm going to return these, and I never did. It's like they're all like in the box, ready to go. They're not quite like wrapped and like, but they're still in the boxes that they came in.
Right.
Just in the corner of the room, sitting over there, things I bought that I don't need and I want to get rid of. Impulse purchase. But then I have other things like you said. I mean, I'm trying to think of something in particular. Like I've got this big TV in my. Have you been to the house since I updated the TV?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I have this.
We filmed there. Remember, we had to move it.
75-inch TV in like a really small space, and it makes me happy that I have that. You know what I mean? I was just like, let's freaking just get it.
Yeah.
This is like a real quick purchase, and I just
was that
got
an
it.
online purchase?
Yeah, of course it was.
I always feel bad for the Amazon drivers with those. Like, what? Looking at
but
that
they
thing.
have techniques for that. They do. Have techniques. They're professionals.
Still feel bad for them.
They don't feel bad for them.
Guilt.
They're professionals.
Guilt.
Yeah, I have other things. I have things. My car, I think, was an impulse purchase. That one wasn't quite sure about. That one made me happy. One of this is one of those things that is like a traditional, like the dude complains like, oh, my wife is always my wife. Take my wife, please. It's like an old school, like my wife is always
Amazon shows up every day.
Or she just freaking, rolls up with freaking, like my ex used to roll up with plants. She would just freaking come with all these plants. I have to plant all these.
Right.
It was like, just like she left with one intention and came back with this whole other thing that we had to do. But we all do it, right? It's it's psychology.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, we're doing that and kind of, we're just kind of dealing with it, right? And we're trying to figure it out. So for our listeners, it's all about this. Like for our listeners, it's about how can we now look at ourselves and create that same kind of thing? Because at the end of the day, when we sell our product or service to someone, we want to keep them. Then we go into the client experience about keeping them. But inevitably, we've all worked with or had clients that fall into that 80% rule, where maybe they buy something from us once and it isn't, they're not going to be returning, or for whatever reason. And some of that might be us, but some of it might just be, it just doesn't fit, right? We can't fit everybody.
Right.
Right. We're not going to be the thing for everyone. But isn't it nice if before we, like in the process of discovery, if we at least get one purchase out of them? And that's really what we're talking about today, right? So how can we be effective at making that potential long-term client at least get in the door right away with maybe a little bit of that impulse purchase?
Right. Well, maybe we should start off with, like, what are some of the reasons why people end up with stuff that they don't need?
Wow.
Like, what are some of the reasons? One of them is this idea that it's
Jack
just like
Daniels might be
well,
a
the thing
reason.
the thing we've been talking about so far is it, like, literally makes you feel good. Like, you walk in without something, you walk out with something, right? You have, like, a sense of gratification, right? It's a real
The dopamine response to making a purchase is real.
Yeah.
Yes.
Totally 100% real.
Yep.
The other thing that really drives, and this is something I learned a long time ago, but it's something you experience and then you learn it as you get into business, is whenever you think you can get a deal, you grab it.
Yeah.
And I grab stuff that's like, sometimes I'll just, like, you walk through, like, the Target clearance area and there's something that's just, like, on clearance. Those are the things that I don't necessarily regret because I got a deal and it was probably cheap.
Yep.
Those
Yep.
are things just end up just being tossed.
Right.
Because, like, I just grab it because it was a deal.
Yeah.
I worked with a furniture store, and furniture is like one of those you probably can just put yourself in this position right now. It's like, it's priced. The crib is priced for the discount, and the deal drives the business, and it makes people feel better about the purchase.
Yep. Yep.
And it's like, okay, well, like that drives the purchase. Like that drives my psychology. Is like, if I think I can get a deal, I'm going to buy things that are discounted that I might not even, the whole category of thing
Yep.
isn't something I would have bought.
Yep. Yep.
But because it was a deal, I grabbed it.
Yeah.
Well, I got, how many times have you been sitting with somebody? Oh, I got a deal.
Yeah.
Hey, where'd you get that? Oh, I got a deal.
Yeah.
Okay.
course.
And then you think to yourself, okay, that makes sense. Now I know why they did it.
Which is a big piece of it. So, as we get into this as the video goes on, but one of the ways we create that is through creating these deals, creating these sales. And that is a piece of it, right? It's a piece of it of creating the need response of, I have to do this right now.
Yeah.
But it's only one piece of it. And I think where a lot of business owners go wrong is that's where they stop, right? They have a thing and they want to create a buzz around it. And so they create this limited time offer, but it kind of ends there.
Right.
And the other pieces that are so crucial. And when we think about what got us over the hump of those purchases that we're talking about now, a lot of it is, there was more to it. Like, it looked really good.
Right.
Right. We live in a world where we expect to see something image-wise look perfect. Really has to look perfect. And if you don't provide that, then there's a good chance you're not going to get that sale.
Right.
You're not going to get, or we're talking, one of the things we've been doing a lot of recently is these educational videos. Same thing, nowadays they have to look good.
Yeah.
And if they don't, because we want to get that love at first sight, and looks are everything, right? When dealing with the dopamine response, looks are everything. No one's gone to a site or to someone's Instagram page and see something that looks shitty, right, or not well displayed and say, "Oh, I really got to have that." Right? It's all in. It's all in presentation. The presentation's everything.
For sure. Before we get to some of the ways that a business might be able to create for that, I did want to talk about these other couple of things that explain why people purchase things. And again, it might churn some ideas in people's brains.
Yep.
Right? Because they understand that, like, one of the reasons why, one of the huge factors in the Amazon craze and why people just end up with like 5 or 6 things coming to the door that they didn't want. It's just because they were freaking bored. Right? It's like, I mean, I do this. Like if I'm out, like if I've got time to kill between something, like I've got meetings, or like I know I got to pick up my boy, I got to go to the store, or I don't have to go anywhere. Yep. Sometimes I'll walk in and buy something.
You'll shop.
I get stuff
shop
I
is a
don't
time
need
killer. Yeah.
because I'm bored, right? Or because I'm just trying to kill time, you know. And it's like it definitely is driven purchase of mine, and it's a big reason why people buy a bunch of stuff online. Because it's like, all right, well, I'm sitting around. It's you're doom scrolling. You're just on your phone. You have nothing else to do. You see something you want. If you were in any other active part of your life, then you would have not bought the thing. But because you're bored, and it just kind of stands out a little bit more.
I think it's important for our listeners to kind of, if they're going to key in on that, then the analysis there is, all right, well, is there a time frame where I want to make sure this gets in front of my clientele? Right. And that's where being, without going down this rabbit hole, but that's where being a little specific about if we're going to pay and boost any posts, maybe we're doing that with a targeted time frame and range, or if we're just going to post things organically to our audience base, maybe we're doing that with a time, all right, we're going to do this at a targeted time. When are people in that mode of just like, all right, we're going to grab them? Maybe that's 8 o'clock at night.
Right. So
or 9 o'clock at night.
I think just
sitting in there.
It's a good argument for being present for people.
Yeah.
Whenever you can.
Yep.
Right. So it's like having a constant online presence for those moments when you're catching people when they're scrolling.
Yeah.
Right. And as you said, sometimes you time it so that you hit it at that. You think about the time when, okay, I've worked all day. I got home.
Yep.
Feed the kids.
Yep.
Take the kids to soccer. Get home. Finally get a chance to sit down. Maybe it's that 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock time frame. Can we be there when they're bored? When they're ready?
Yeah.
And the same thing might be a lunchtime, right? It's like, okay, well, it's lunchtime or I've eaten. I just want to kind of kill a little bit of time. We want to be there for that. I mean, like that. The timing of that can be cool.
And if this is what you're going for, right? If you're going to create and this is a marketing strategy. Let's be clear, right? That we're creating this whole marketing strategy. And if you're going to do that, then when do people have money? Well, it's Friday,
right?
Friday night. Friday night, people's bank accounts that work are better than they are on Monday morning. On Monday morning, it's when you look at it and be like, oh shit. All right, got to tighten up for the rest of the week because that's when that natural transition happens. If you're going to grab a income purchase, to me, Friday night, Saturday mornings are great times. People, or you get the Thursday evening for people who get that early direct deposit on Thursday for the week. We all know that feeling of looking at our bank account after the check's gone in and feeling we have a little more disposable income right this minute. That will not be there Monday morning usually.
What do you think I know we're going to get into strategies in a minute, but what do you think the best strategy is for that person? Because like you could look at it 2 ways. One is you could kind of have, could you see, I don't want to time date this too much, but what do they call it? Demand pricing, where it's like the depending on the time of the day or the time of the season.
Airlines do this well.
Right. Airlines do this all the time, right? So it's like if you try and buy a flight, for April school vacation break,
right,
you're going to be paying freaking through the nose.
Yep.
Because the demand's going to be up, right? Supply and demand. I mean, it freaking makes sense. Or you're going to be buying it.
And airlines have that thing, like they're always like, if you follow people who follow that, they're like, hey, if you want to buy your flight, you do it Tuesday night.
Right. Yeah. When
because
there's inventory, when they're switching things over or whatever it is, whatever the process is.
Yeah.
And remember, I don't know if you heard this, but Wendy's was thinking about doing this.
I did not hear this.
Yeah, they were thinking about changing their prices during lunchtime when demand's high.
And increasing their price.
Well, I think I'm not sure. People are gonna have to look this up, but basically the idea is how can you should be thinking like once you understand the psychology of purchasing, and you understand economics, basic supply and demand, you should try and use those to your advantage. And I think what Wendy's was basically trying to do is and I think it came out, it was like a huge problem for them when this came out because people were just like, this is freaking ridiculous. Like I'm gonna go buy my freaking Frosty at noon and it's going to cost more than if I get it at midnight or 1 o'clock. I think what they were going to try and do is they were going to try and do the opposite where they discounted to increase purchases on the off hours, which
Yeah.
is another way of doing it, the surge pricing. But the idea is like, how can we take advantage of the fact that there's going to be these natural periods? Like, so I go back to the point where you brought it up, right? You brought up people get paid on Friday. So like things get really busy, like Costco and freaking BJ, all these discount places all get really, really busy.
Absolutely.
Because people get their paycheck and now they can go out and buy.
Yeah.
So how do you take advantage of that best? Do you have less discounts during that time because more people are just going to buy at full price because they have the money? Or do you have more discounts because you're just like, all right, people are just going to grab this. If I discount it, if I price it properly, then people are going to grab it. I think there's an actual answer to this, and I'm not sure what it is.
Well, I think it's a combination of that. And you can even take like the first of the month as an example for those people who are getting government support money, right? We all, when we go, and maybe they're doing grocery shopping on a more of a, not a weekly basis, right? Grocery store is always busier that first weekend after the first of the month. It always is. And we see that. So it's like, it is targeting all of those things. And I think it's a combination, in my opinion.
Of course,
it's a combination of the taking.
For those of you who work in like high level, high volume retail, should definitely reach out and comment on this video and let us know what the correct way to take advantage of this is.
Right, because they're doing that. They're doing that all the
time. They're doing it on
now.
the fly. They have AI and freaking data, and they're doing it. But the idea is like
that Walmart rollback pricing was all analytic driven.
Yeah, so let's get into some solutions now. But like that's the basic idea. What we're trying to do is, even with the discussion, besides the fact that of course we're going to give people things that they can do right now, but get you just thinking about this. Think about, okay, well, because I think that the what the business owner does is, especially in businesses that maybe aren't doing that well, I've got a great product or service. I know I do a great job, but I'm not. But this Joe Schmo over here is doing way better than me.
Yep.
So why are people buying that product or that service and not mine?
Right.
And so we're going to get into some of the psychology and what you can do now.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of it is presentation and packaging.
Yeah.
It's fear and incorporating that fear of missing out in the presentation and packaging. But we can't, the 3 blunt force facts for today really encompass this, a very strong approach on getting people excited, creating that a little bit of FOMO, and making the representation of your thing spot on.
Right.
It's spot on, and very much like it's got to get that initial thing like, oh, that looks really good. I think restaurants do this very well. In the small business realm, I feel like a lot of restaurants I work with have grasped this and done really well of leveraging really, really high quality portrait mode photos. And you look at the food and you're like, I am starving now.
Right.
Just a quick glance at that. And, right away that, and then how do you take that to the next step? And we'll get into some of the action items you can take. And one is, removing friction of purchase. So where I think business owners do well with this is most of them are grabbing that really good looking image of that food item, right? Most of them are not having a one-click button to DoorDash that to you right now. That is to me, that's the gap.
Right.
Right. Because if I see that and it's lunchtime and I target the right time, okay? So I follow these food trucks and these restaurants on Instagram. I look at their food. I'm like, oh, that looks so good. We should go there soon. Well, that's good. But what's more of a dopamine response than food? Food, like when you get hungry, your brain chemistry changes.
Yeah.
When you satisfy that hunger, the brain chemistry changes. Think about when you sit down at a restaurant and you look at that menu, all of a sudden you're like, I'm fucking starving right now, right? So it's that. And then for our listeners, it's, okay, so step 1, looks through everything. We got to grab them. Step 2 there is, reducing that friction.
Right.
And just making click to order.
Right. Well, before we get into the friction piece, I think that looks being important is it's like one of those things we all understand, we don't necessarily do anything about. It's like everybody knows that like the better looking person is the better salesperson.
Yeah.
Like all the pharmaceutical companies, when they were all getting into trouble, they all had young, good looking women selling
Yep.
their products.
Yep.
Right. So look, sell. And then when we're going through a good time, especially I think of like a lot of contractors, like I'm working with a guy right now. They sell a very specific type of product. And we haven't tested this yet, but times are tough right now.
Yeah.
It's competitive right now because there's
Okay.
less. It's like we're going through like a recession in the manufacturing sector. Maybe not a recession in general where we are right now, but the manufacturing sector is kind of going through a recession. And so now he needs business more than he needed before. Business was just coming to him. Now he needs to go get business. So now the fact that his website doesn't look good, and now the fact that this content's not that great might be an issue. Because if you look at his competitors, all their websites are fantastic. They've all got these amazing videos. And it's really like, this is an area that might not be important in certain industries. In some industries, it's way more important. Like there are certainly like in the restaurant industry, there are restaurants with these picture perfect Instagram accounts. And there's some restaurants that don't have any social media at all. And their place looks like a dump, but their freaking lines out the door.
Yep.
Right. Because the food's amazing. But when you're in the competitive 1-for-1, right? We do this, they do this. Your visuals are going to make all the difference in the world. So it is important that you up your game when you have the opportunity, right? You need to understand this as a small business. Like maybe times are good right now, but if times aren't good and you're in a more competitive environment and people are comparing you to somebody else, like we talk about this, we've talked about this multiple times. It's like, just like little things, like let's say your website just doesn't work. You click on the button and the button doesn't work.
Right.
Or you click on all the social media networks and they haven't been updated since 2018.
Yep.
These are negatives now
Yeah.
that you didn't have. So your visuals are just really important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And they're important from the standpoint, like we're talking about, of that dopamine response.
Yeah.
And playing to that impulse purchase. Now, some of our products or services, some of our listeners have a product or service where they may make the argument, well, mine isn't done that way. We could make that argument in the consulting realm. Like, are people really impulse purchasing business consulting? Probably not.
No, of course not.
But do we have a service or a thing out there that is floating there that could be impulse purchased? And I would argue that everybody can create this thing, can create with the right tool, and maybe it's a free for a limited time thing that allows you to grab these people and get their contact, right? And but I think even in the service industry, there are things that you can offer that will hit like a hot point and make it so. And maybe you have to delve into the gap bridge. We've been talking recently in one of the other podcasts about looking at our clients from the standpoint of the buckets they fall in and the gap services that are there potentially we might be missing. And I think this impulse purchase could be one of those. Or this impulse like decision could be one of those. It's all right, here's our funnel, okay? And the gap here might be, we're going to get people into this funnel by all of these clients have. So let's take an individual that would be a potential client for URI. What is the definitive thing we know about that client is that no matter what, they're a business owner. All things aside, 99.9%, if they're talking to URI, they own a company. We'll start right there. What are things that all business owners have in common? And we take that down to, all right, well, they all need X. And there's a million different lanes we can go with this. We could say, well, they all prep taxes, or they all have to potentially hire someone at one point in time. And now, can we create maybe this really sexy, really shiny little online tool that we offer to them that it's not really the crux of what we're doing, but it gets them in the door, and it would be an impulse purchase because as they're kicking around, like, oh, that I could use that. That looks really great. I have that problem all the time, and it's right there, and it's easy, and we make it. And I think some companies do that very, very well. And they get you to download this ebook, right? So they get a nice looking model with a really good photo shoot with the book and the thing, and like take advantage of this now. And that's a Friday night purchase. And then the thing comes in, and you look through it, and or whatever. And I think for all of us, if you're not thinking about your company as well, because the nature of what we do, we don't really hit on that. That's not really true.
Right. It's not true. I mean, like what, like you're wearing this nice T-shirt. You know what I mean? Like it's, if you're a business consultant and you dress shabbily, you're probably not going to get much business. You know what I mean? Like, if you show up like a slob, you're not going to get much business. And like if you look at like service-based, like external, like electricians or whatever it is, you've got the ones that kind of show up and they're the local guy, you trust them, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then you've got the group of guys who are in their polos.
Absolutely.
Company polos, right? These are not mistakes.
Right.
These are not done just haphazardly.
Yeah.
These are done because looks are important.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
they just are. And so I think it's just a starting point. And I think it's just something to understand and appreciate as a business owner. And then in terms of creating this urgency, you know what I mean? I think that, there are companies that just base their whole business model on slashing a price. So we've talked about it over and over and over again. One of the first things we do is like, why is your price so low? Increase your price. Because now you've got this flexibility to mess around with it.
Yep.
You can have a permanent slash through it.
Yep.
People don't know. They just see there's a slash through it. They're just like, oh, I'm getting the deal.
Yeah.
Boom, I'm going to buy it. It's like automatic. Or what can you provide of value that is nothing to you, but you could offer that for free? I mean, like, for example, I work with a jewelry store. They always offer 12-month interest-free financing on an engagement ring, always. So it's like, it's not like even a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
But when we have a promotion, we make sure we reference that. It's like, oh, take advantage of this promotion. We're only running it through the weekend.
Right.
12-month interest-free finance. We offer it all year. But it's important to make sure we mention it. It creates that urgency because you think, oh, if I might be able to get I might be able to finance this thing if I do it now.
Right.
We can do it all the time.
Right.
But we're going to mention it during the promo.
Yeah.
These are the things that drive the purchase, right? These are the things that is going to make people buy things, and I think that as a business, we have to figure out, again, like I put myself in the situation where either I or, number one of the businesses that I work with, like, why are we struggling right now? What about the psychology of the person who's ultimately going to make the purchase?
Yeah.
Can I understand? And then what can I do about it? Can we improve the visuals? Can we, reviews, right? Like testimonials and reviews, because like, what do people want to feel? They want to feel that other people have had success with this.
And that plays to the we want what she's having.
Exactly.
Right? So, it plays a lot to that third blunt force fact is you always want to showcase other people who have had really gotten something out of what you do.
Yeah.
And if you're showcasing that, other people want to have that. And,
I'm just going to bring up a quick example.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
we're coming up to the spring. So what do you want to be showing? You want to be showing, it's spring where we are. You want to be showing, like if you're like a home services, show the house that's been completely power washed.
Right.
I mean, it's like, and then I'm seeing that and I'm thinking about my house. I haven't, I've been busy. Or, it's winter's just over. I've been busy.
Yep.
The outside looks like a mess. I've been taking my kids, your grass gets that high once, get to the middle of the spring, whatever it is. So like you see that and you're like, oh, I want that.
Yeah.
I want that experience. I want that to happen with me.
That's the dopamine response piece. It's being able to identify the pain point and put out there this beautiful solution that was a great example because now being in the Northeast coming out of the winter, we look at our yard and we're like, oh, got to pull those shovels away.
Yeah.
Got it. Like it's all that stuff you're thinking about right now.
Yeah. Because before when you were just sitting around in the house and it was freezing out and nobody was leaving, you didn't even look at the outside.
Didn't even care.
Yeah. Now it's like, oh my God, my deck has all these freaking cracks in it. Like I got to redo the deck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So then You see the visual and you see the person who out there who's had a
Yep.
great experience with a decking company, and it's like, oh, I brought in ABC decking, and they came in and did or like a mason. I mean, I have problems with my my walkway.
Yeah.
I brought in the mason and look at this beautiful walkway they created for me. You know what I mean? So it's like little things like that. They prey on the psychology of the consumer.
And as we're talking about the psychology of spending, the thing that's important is some of the psychology of spending is being there at the time when that person who is going to be your client, but just hasn't been there at the right time. Sometimes not sometimes. Marketing has proven this to us. We got to be in front of them all the time so that when they're ready, when they want to make that purchase, they know us, they're comfortable with us, and there we are. And there are companies, you can think of the ones that do that very well. They're always there. They're always there. They're always in front of us. They're always putting this, hey, act now, you get this. Look how great this is. And then the moment happens and all right, great, right? So the repetitive nature of this. And I think one of the biggest takeaways from the psychology of spending that you need to understand as a business owner is the one thing you don't control is when you get that person at the right time. And so being resilient, being committed to this cause of taking these facts that we're talking about today and just continuing to, not just saying, all right, let's do this for a month, continuing to implement this process and these systems so that way when the time is right, there it is.
Yeah, I think that you can time it though. Like you said, you can be around at the right time.
Right.
You have to have a consistent presence, otherwise you're not going to be around at the right time.
Yeah.
But you can be seasonal too. You could be like, if you're in the home services business around spring,
Yeah.
that you're
commit to like a 3 month push.
Yeah, that you're pushing out in February, late end of
Absolutely.
February, March, and you're like, the timing, you know the data around that. The last point I wanted to bring up, which is something you mentioned earlier, was you've got to make it easy. And you can think of the impulse purchase of just grabbing a pack of gum or grabbing it would have been like the National Enquirer when we were kids. You grab that off the rack. Why? Because it's right there.
Yeah.
And it's easy. What can we do to improve our processes as business owners to make things easy? Financing could be part of it. Accepting all methods of payments, not saying, oh, we only take checks,
Right.
or we only take credit cards. And I've been in that situation where I think I've referenced it on this podcast, where my marketing agreement used to be like 6 pages long, and I had 2 customers just say like, I'm not signing this.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And I lost one of them I kept and one of them I lost.
Right.
I never got to talk to them again.
Right.
And they were going to sign.
Yeah.
They were going to give me money.
Yeah.
And I lost them.
Right.
So I've simplified that, make it easier.
Friction.
Yeah, exactly. What can we do to make it easy? What can we do to make it so that they can just pull it right off the shelf?
Yep.
And put it in their pocket.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And I think payment options are important. I think that ease of purchase, giving a button to click, like all these different things. These concepts of not making people wait. I mean, that's one of the reasons why Amazon is so successful. Mm-hmm. I mean, same day, it gets up same day now. Same day, I order something in the morning
crazy.
And I get it later that day.
It is.
But by eliminating that, the friction, and that's not something we're going to, I can't do that as a small business. A lot of same day.
Right, but I don't think you necessarily need that in the sense what you need is to be able to make it easy for them to click that button or do that thing when you get them right at the right time.
Right, and like one thing I do is I allow people to text me, and I know that might be a bad thing in terms of like my boundaries all the time, but like I've got especially a lot of these small contracting type people, they just want to text.
Right.
There's their email box is full, or that's where they're dealing a lot of their business.
Yep.
So they just want to text.
Yep.
It's like if I allow people to text, then that takes away some of the friction.
Yeah.
Makes it easier for them.
Yeah.
To purchase. It makes it easier for them to communicate. Like I have a plumber I work with, and this is a good story. It's a good story because they're happy with me and they're happy with the service. But we're working. I had the chance to get the business a year ago. Mm-hmm. I have, I think, okay visuals in my business, but like I'm literally just like mostly just me
Yep.
in what I do. And I lost it to a very professional company.
Yeah.
Lost the business to a very professional company. Got them back. And all the things that I do well are what's keeping it, right? So like responsiveness. He's able to get a hold of me. I'm actually delivering on the services. I'm talking to him in a certain way.
Yep.
Like that's, but like I lost the business because those, even though those are my, not just responsiveness is a terrible one because I don't want to be like 24/7 responsive, but like the way that I talk to people, the way that I talk to him, is now attractive. Never mind the fact that we're getting results.
Right.
But the way that I'm talking to him in a very plain manner, and it's like, it might not be pro speak, but it's the way you and I talk. It's our whole business model.
Yep.
Like that's what's driving the relationship now.
Yeah.
But I didn't communicate that at the beginning. And he looked at my website and looked at their website. It's clear that they've had a ton of success and they have a whole team of people working for them. And you look at mine and it's like, it's mostly clear that it's just me. And I haven't put as much time into the site because I don't have as much time, period, to do it. But like, all these things are things we can improve. Like I can improve the look of my website, I can improve what I'm communicating. I can put more, like I'm trying to work on more testimonials.
Yep.
Because I don't feel like, I tell all my customers, you need to go out and get testimonials and have people like user generated contact. Like if they can shoot themselves, like saying, I enjoyed the product.
Yep.
This is exactly what we talked about. This social proof,
Yep.
this idea, we're having what she's having, right? All the things I encourage my clients to do. And some of them do a very good job.
Yeah.
I don't do a good job
Well,
at
that
all.
happens. That's the plumber with the leaky pipes, right?
Yeah,
We
yeah.
all know that, that we do it every day. And then sometimes to bring it into our own space, we put ourselves last.
Yeah.
We do that all the time. Good stuff.
Yeah, I think it's important to talk through this because this stuff is obvious.
Yep.
But at the same time, even though it's obvious, we don't always think of it.
We don't.
As a business, you get frustrated.
Nope.
Like, why am I not getting business? Why am I not selling? Why is this product not selling? It's a great product.
We're looking more internal as opposed to really understanding how people make purchases.
Exactly.
And that,
Yep.
and that's the goal today. So,
Yep.
Good stuff. All right. Blunt Force Fact review.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Blunt Force Fact number 1, love at first sight is real. Blunt Force Fact number 2, looks are everything. And Blunt Force Fact number 3, we'll have what she's having. I'm Brian LaFauci.
Patrick Marino.
Until next time.
Thank you.